So this next article is about Elizabeth Warren. How Elizabeth Warren is starting to become very liked among Wall Street fat cats and Wall Street executives. And this is an article from Bloomberg. It's from July 3rd. And the title says, Elizabeth Warren starts winning begrudging respect on Wall Street. And a couple of the couple of bullet points here. It says, financiers are drawn to her intelligence and views on social issues. Senators' focus on inequality goes mainstream, professor says. So let's go through this article here a little bit. So here it starts off by going, kind of getting into the details of how people on Wall Street could support her. It says, there's a new whisper on Wall Street. Maybe Elizabeth Warren isn't so bad. The Democratic senator who rose to national prominence by calling for tough regulation after the financial crisis is winning respect from a small but growing circle of senior bankers and hedge fund managers. As the presidential candidate from Massachusetts takes aim at the rich and powerful with a slew of tax-raising policy proposals, some financial types who fit that description say she's proven capable and make some good points. If she ends up being the nominee, I'd have no trouble supporting her at all, said David Shamus, Chief Investment Officer of Atlas Merchant Capital, where he's a founding partner alongside former Barclays PLC head Bob Diamond. While Warren isn't Shamus's top choice, he said, I think she is smart. We're hardworking, responsible, and thoughtful. And I think she thinks markets are important. Shamus said people in his network who studied under Warren, a former professor at Harvard Law School, think highly of her, including some conservatives. Ooh, ringing endorsement. Conservatives are loving the so-called progressive Democrat. So why do they like her? For some Wall Streeters who lean liberal, Warren is an acceptable alternative to candidates who trigger their most visceral objections. Republican President Donald Trump on the right and Senator Bernie Sanders, a self-described Democratic Socialist, on the left. You see that? How they're doing that? They're creating that juxtaposition, that kind of like, oh, look how much, these people, they don't like Bernie Sanders and they don't like Donald Trump, pretending as if they're the same person and they believe in the same things, which they don't at all. So quoting quoting Warren here, it says, it would be just wrong, Warren told CBS's Face the Nation in March, to call her a Democratic Socialist. I believe in markets that work, markets that have a cop on the beat and have real rules and everybody follows them. At other times, she has derided parts of the financial industry as predatory. I clearly don't agree with everything she says, but I do give her credit for getting things done. Tom Nides, a Morgan Stanley vice chairman and former deputy secretary of state under Barack Obama, said of Warren. He didn't share which candidate he's supporting. Warren's work to set up the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau in the wake of the crisis was impressive, quote unquote. Knight said, you can't argue with that. Having an idea, driving it to fruition, and having set it up is really hard to do. So what is this? It says, so it talks about how Warren attacked a hedge fund manager who I guess she didn't know donated to her, and then she apologized. So it says, some who like Warren might find that her backing isn't welcome. Former hedge fund manager Whitney Tilson recounted a 2016 episode in which she criticized him on Facebook for being a Wall Street insider who stood to gain from Trump's policies. The attack surprised Tilson and his wife, who had previously made small donations to Warren and followed her career. She later apologized. And this is quoting Tilson here. Apparently in an article he wrote, it says, I agree with her general assessment that we've allowed multiple systems to develop in this country that screw average folks in countless ways, from education, healthcare, criminal justice, trade, etc. Tilson wrote in an article last week, "Despite the mishap, I'm glad she's running." So here it talks about how some people who might support Elizabeth Warren even donated to Republicans. Indeed, Shamus and other unwilling to commit to any candidates early, either with their vote or their money. His business partner Diamond, I think, what was his name? Bob Diamond, previously donated to campaigns for Republicans John McCain and Jeb Bush. So when Jeb Bush ran in 2016, in that crowded field of Republicans against Trump, apparently he donated to him, and then John McCain apparently when he ran. Not sure if they're referring to Senate campaign for John McCain or maybe even governor campaign when Jeb Bush ran, but probably most recently when they were running for president or when they ran for president. So it seems to me that these corporate executives, they want Warren as a gatekeeper who will eventually give in to their demands, and they pretty much say as much here. So check this part out. It says, those drawn to Warren cited her intelligence and stance on social issues. They expressed sympathy for her calls to bolster regulation after the financial crisis within reason and for her concerns about income inequality. There are worries among the Wall Streeters that if the wealth gap keeps growing, it will trigger a more radical backlash, what they ominously called the pitchforks. Yet that doesn't mean they support her proposal for a wealth tax. Big surprise. And some privately predicted she will shift to the center if she becomes the nominee. That's a fucking huge red flag right there. If these people are already thinking that Elizabeth Warren is going to shift to the center, why should any progressive go out there and support her? It's crazy. I mean, just the mere fact that she supported Hillary Clinton, right after she won the in the opinion of many progressives, the rigged California primary, let alone just the entire fucking primary being rigged. But the fact that she supported her then and did not endorse Bernie Sanders when the race between Hillary and Bernie was so close in her home state of Massachusetts, she refused to endorse anybody. If she had endorsed Bernie, he would have won. And Hillary ended up winning by less than a percentage point, I think, or something like that. I don't know if they did a recount for it because it was just above that limit that they didn't have to recount it. I think the recount is when it's 0.5% or 1% or something. It was right above that though. So, but yeah, the fact that these corporate executives think that they can get her to the center, ooh, huge red flag. So here it talks about Elizabeth Warren's relationship with Jamie Dimon, who is the head of J.P. Morgan Chase, who is one of the people on Bernie Sanders' anti-endorsement list, as we were talking about on the couple segments ago. Let's see here. So it says, yet Warren's criticism of the industry has at times flared into direct clashes with its most prominent leaders. Her book, A Fighting Chance, describes a heated discussion about regulation with J.P. Morgan Chase and Company Chief Executive Officer Jamie Dimon during an encounter in 2013. We weren't quite shouting, but we were definitely raising our voices. Dimon later echoed the views of many in finance at an industry event in 2015. I don't know if she fully understands the global banking system. Warren shot back. The problem for these guys is that I fully understand the system and I understand how they make their money, and that's what they don't like about me. And then Dimon apparently finds some of her ideas palatable. And the article points out how, despite that exchange, Dimon and Warren have met a few times and the visits went well, according to a person with knowledge of the talks who asked not to be identified, describing private meetings. In recent years, Dimon has also expressed concerns about many of the same issues Warren prioritizes, such as income inequality, stagnant wages, and soaring healthcare costs. So that's an attempt by Jamie Dimon to just throw a bone. He's just throwing a little bone at Warren and the people that support her, essentially, who, maybe they're not progressives, but they're left of center. So, that's throwing a bone at her and her supporters to be like, yeah, no, I totally care about income inequality and stagnant wages and soaring healthcare costs. But in reality, he doesn't really give a shit. He's just saying that just so he can appease them, as many of these corporate donors do, and as politicians do as well. But, so they're in the kind of they have the same kind of habits. But it's an attempt to appease them so that he can get them on their side and then make his ideas seem like decent. And then he's going to end up, essentially going against those ideas. But, in this article, it also points out how Warren still is going to be tough on Wall Street. People can make that determination for themselves if they really believe that or not. It says, yet there's no truce. Last week, she took aim at JP Morgan for reviving a policy pushing credit card customers to use arbitration to resolve disputes. In a letter, she urged the bank to, quote, reconsider your plans to resume exploiting its customers. Warren has no plans to ease off the industry. Nobody has been tougher on Wall Street than Elizabeth, and no one will be tougher on Wall Street as president than Elizabeth will be, the campaign said in an emailed statement. She wants to break up the big banks. And then it says, the industry has good reason to worry about Warren's ability to inflict pain. In 2016, she led calls to fire Wells Fargo and company CEO John Stumpf after the bank opened accounts without customer permission. That's fucked up. Then she demanded the ouster of his successor, company veteran Tim Sloan, saying he couldn't be trusted to clean up its scandals. After regulators signaled dissatisfaction with the progress, he stepped down in March, saying he didn't want to be a distraction. The bank is seeking an outsider to take over. And then here's in my opinion, one of the parts that's very kind of jaw-dropping to me, especially for somebody that's supposedly fighting against Wall Street and wants to be so tough on them. Apparently, she has received money. She's raised money from Wall Street donors. Now, these to be fair, these could be workers on Wall Street, but the people that are working on Wall Street are incredibly rich. It's not like there's some regular Joe working on Wall Street. Now, there could be people that are trading stocks and stuff, so they're traders. But the people that are working on Wall Street are not. They're wealthy people. They're not regular Joes making $50,000 a year, So anyway, the article says, despite her steady criticism of the industry, Warren raised $625,000 and $25 from donors who work in the investment and securities firms for her 2012 Senate campaign, according to data from the Center for Responsive Politics. Financiers were more comfortable with the Democrats then and probably saw her as less of a threat, said Jeffrey Berry, a political science professor at Tufts University. But that likely changed during her first term as she established herself as one of Capitol Hill's most fiercest critics of the industry. For her 2018 re-election bid, she drew $387,417 from the sector. To be sure, some backers may have felt less inclined to contribute because she was fending off an underfunded and a much weaker opponent. Though she got $53,760 from the sector in the first quarter, it's too early to project what she might raise for her presidential bid. In the first quarter, let's just say if she were to receive about $50,000 every quarter this year, that would be $200,000. And then let's just say she does the same thing in the next 2-3 quarters until November of 2020. So 3 quarters of 2020, and then heading into November, which is the fourth quarter. But then I guess you could consider October as well. So going into November though of 2020, she could probably get up to 150, 200,000, maybe 175,000. So I wouldn't be surprised. And then it says, it seems like the donors are aware of Wall Street's corruption, but it's not so fast. It says over the years, her views have become more accepted, Barry said. It says there is an increasing sense among the highly educated that the system is out of whack in terms of income inequality, and so people who work with money day in and day out are acutely aware of that, he said. Her indictment of income inequality and the role that Wall Street plays in that is becoming more mainstream. So again, that's just people, in this case, that's one guy, who is he? He's a political science professor. So he's I think he's noticing or he's examining the fact that these people are fighting her ideas to become a lot more palatable and a lot more feasible for them. And it's something that they can roll with as long as she goes to the center at some point, which they're already predicting that she's going to do anyway. So to them, that's cool, right? They can roll with that as long as she's going to go to the center at some point. So I wanted to play you guys a clip here of Elizabeth Warren. She gave an interview with TYT. Now, yeah, let me just play this for you, and then check this. Yeah, check out this interview, and then it's very short, not even an interview. It's a short, like 45-second clip. So just check out what she says here to how she responds to Cenk Uygur's question, Cenk Uygur of TYT. So check out this clip, and then we'll talk about it on the other side.
Does this only apply in the primaries, or will you carry this over to the general election or any other election you'll have going forward?
So this is for primaries. Look, I do not believe in unilateral disarmament. We need to win. We need to win in 2020. And when we hit 2020 and we're in a race against Donald Trump, when we're in a race for control of the Senate and control of the House and in control of the state houses and the governor's mansions, in all of those, the Republicans are going to be bringing a lot of money, a lot of power, a lot of dark money, a lot of super PACs, all to the fight. We play by the same rules. And in that one, I say we got to be all in because we have to beat the Republicans.
So she's very clear there. She says that we need to be all in. I do not believe in unilateral disarmament. And I will take the PAC money, I'll take the corporate PAC money during the general election. Now, it's weird because Cenk Uygur, who asked that question, he did a full 15, 20-minute interview with her. I don't know, I think it was somewhere around there. But he did a long interview with her, asked her a bunch of questions. He asked her this question. He got this response. I don't know what he said after this. I don't know if he followed up or whatever. But he asked this question, and then, I don't know, this was from February and March, I think. And now when people ask him, do you support Elizabeth Warren even though she's decided to take corporate money, corporate PAC money, corporate cash during the general election, do you support her? He says, that's not true. She never said that. That lie needs to stop. You guys need to stop that. Something along those lines. So he completely denies it now. So Cenk, he completely denies that Elizabeth Warren wants to take corporate PAC money when she just said it right there. You guys can listen to the clip again. She clearly said, I'm going to take corporate PAC money. I'm not going to do, I don't believe in unilateral disarmament. We need to defeat the Republicans. We need to win, blah, 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 all that bullshit. So Elizabeth Warren is not to be trusted. I have said this before. More people need to realize this. They need to realize that, you need to call her out. The primary is not over yet, so I'm not telling people just don't support her. But at least hold her feet to the fire if she's still not going to change. And she still refuses to not be a corporate puppet, essentially, and not be more palatable to the corporate executives out there. If she keeps, giving into them and appeasing them, then definitely don't support her. I mean, there's no point in supporting somebody that's going to be like that. When they talk about, I'm a progressive and stuff. And by the way, this is somebody that said, I'm a capitalist to the bone. I mean, who talks like that? I mean, it's so stupid. Capitalist to the bone. Who actually brags about being a capitalist and then says, I'm a progressive? That's just like Kamala Harris and talking about being a progressive prosecutor. This progressive prosecutor, capitalist to the bone, progressive capitalist. That's bullshit, man. That stuff doesn't. That's a oxymoron. Those are oxymorons. The best oxymorons I've ever fucking seen. So don't fall for that shit. It's total bullshit. It's total, just total. I don't know what to call it. It's just they're trying to manipulate people, and they're trying to convince people that they're totally moral and they're totally being truthful and honest with you, when in reality they're not. And it's just a bunch of talking points and a bunch of fake promises, empty promises from a bunch of empty suits, if you want to say that. Empty suits in regard to women, but yeah, fine, empty suits. And that's how I see them. I don't see them as being people that are honestly going to be people like Elizabeth Warren and all the other centrists running. I don't see them as people that can be trusted, and they have to be called out for their shit, because they're just going to keep doing it until until people start actually calling them out. If we don't call them out, then they're gonna keep doing it and keep going and going and going. Regardless of what how shitty the country is fucking suffering, they're going to keep doing it because they know that that's what their donors want. And we need to make sure that they don't give into the demands of their donors and the demands of their, democratic strategists and political strategists out there. Those people are fucking, losers anyway, and they just want to do what the donors say too. So they're just giving the same advice that the donors do.